And so I have begun the recording. And thank you, of course, for coming on such short notice. We really appreciate it. We just discovered a few things while we were reviewing the rule set for training purposes for licensing staff, and then also looking at needs for you as school-age providers, and did notice about 5 things that we don't know how we missed, that either had been removed from the old set and really needed to be in this rule set, or things that were added that weren't discussed really at the RAC, that might be a financial impact. So we have removed those, or are recommending removal of those rules. So similar to our last meetings, we're just going to quickly go over the agenda. So we're just going to review our group norms, and then we'll just discuss the proposed rule changes that we are presenting today. Zoom details, most of you are familiar with this. So if you're accessing from your computer, there's just a few images about the reactions, the more, the raise hand, which is our main way for you to let us know that you have something to say. So please, it is a small group today. So if you feel like you want to come off mute, go ahead and just speak, or raise your hand. There's also instructions there for accessing Zoom through the app and the reactions through the app. Just a reminder on our group norms that we always want to allow opportunities for all voices to be heard, and that we're going to remain focused on the scope, which we will go over in a second because it's a little bit different than previously. Be open for respectful conversation and discussion. Come prepared. There wasn't a lot to prepare for today, so and I will send these slides out after the meeting as well if you have additional feedback. And then utilize the form for additional feedback. We're actually not going to use the form. I should have removed that one from the slide. And then raise hand function for chat and comments. And Allison today, there's only 2 of us today, just Allison and myself. So we'll try to get to your chat. If we don't manage to see you because there's only 2 of us, please come off mute and let us know. Okay. All right, so today we're really just going to review and provide feedback on the proposed rule changes. There are a couple places where we've changed some language, so we want to make sure that it's clear and that it meets the intent. That again, by changing this or removing this, there weren't any unintended consequences. Are there any financial impacts? Again, there's going to be a cost saver in there, so yay. And then are there any unintended or potentially negative impacts for vulnerable programs? So again, keeping that equity lens in mind. Okay, if there aren't any questions, I don't see anything in the chat, we'll just jump right in. So the first revision is a removal of the specifics on bathroom location. So actually in the first set that passed, we had a line that said that toilets and sinks must be on the same floor of the building where care is provided. So, and there are currently a lot of programs that don't have bathrooms on the same floor. Like I know of one particular YMCA out in Washington County that they're in the cafeteria on the lower level, and the closest bathroom is up a flight of stairs. So we're proposing to remove that requirement that they be on the same floor. And the rationale is that this is actually more restrictive for programs, could limit the space that they could use, and that there are already programs operating with a bathroom on a different floor. So are there any thoughts or feedback or comment on removing that requirement?
I think my only question would be, then do you need to make any specification? It says easily, like safely and easily accessed, I guess just a call out for ADA accessible, or is that just implied so that there wouldn't be any limitations if a student couldn't use the stairs themselves? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I would imagine that's part of it, but, and I'm sorry, I did not raise my hand.
No, it's okay. Christy?
We have that in one of our programs, and we're like in a below kind of split level cafeteria. So we have to go up a set of stairs to get to the restroom. But we do have an elevator too that is right there for if we do have students that are impaired or in a wheelchair. So that we've already met that part of it. But yeah, I see what Bethany's saying on kind of that wording maybe. But I think if you're already in those situations, you probably already have an alternative way for students to get up there if they can't use those stairs.
Mhm.
Especially with us, I mean, just being in a school setting. So that's something that they have to comply with too. So.
And it might also be that the closest bathroom is up the stairs. And there may be other bathrooms on the same floor that are just not as close. So like Christy said, there may be multiple ways to meet that individual need as well. A great point. Thank you. Anything else on this one? All right. Okay, next. So in the previous rule language, we had said that you needed a minimum of 35 square feet per child. And this was we are actually proposing that we revert back to previous rule language, which was that there shall be a minimum of 50 square feet of indoor activity area per child, or may have 35 square feet of indoor activity area per child if children or the children care have access to a larger gross motor area, either indoor or outdoor on a daily basis, or the school age center has a plan approved by OCC, which addresses how the gross motor needs of children in care will be met. The rationale for this is that it aligns with what's currently in rule and how programs are currently operating. And some programs are operating under either square footage requirement. So this really allows for greater flexibility and use of different spaces and different physical locations. And then especially for those that do not have access to an outdoor area and have to have a plan approved by us. So we are proposing to go back to the original rule language, which does provide for more flexibility of meeting either one requirement or the other. So any thoughts on this one? Moments of uncomfortable silence. Okay.
Christy says it looks good in the chat.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Christy. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. The third change. Okay, carpet cleaning. In the old rule language, we actually had in there that carpets or rugs must be shampooed or steam cleaned at least every 6 months. So again, this was a financial impact that we did not discuss at the RAC. So we are opting to remove the requirement that rugs and carpet be shampooed or steam cleaned at least every 6 months. And yep, it was not addressed in our previous sessions, and there is a financial impact for this. So any questions, feedback?
I guess my question, I couldn't find the raise hand button quick enough. Would be if there's a place that could still be like a recommendation. So like not a requirement, but it would be really good if you consider. I just seems like really good idea still. So is there a space for that?
The thought is that the lead-in for this rule says that the building equipment, vehicles, and must be in good repair, clean, and in sanitary condition, and free of clutter and litter. So essentially, if your carpet was stained, ripping, in poor repair, there would be room for the Office of Child Care to require that it be shampooed and cleaned. We just didn't want to put in a time-based requirement, also, especially if you're in a public school building where you may not have control over that. And typically, I think it does get done over, I would guess, over the summer that does occur. But you may not have control over that. And to put a requirement in that you don't have control over is something we're trying to remove as well. So. Yes. Okay. Okay. Any other thoughts? No. Okay. All right. First aid kit disinfectant. I believe this may have come up on either on a RAC call or was a recommendation from our contacts at OHA. In the original rule text, it basically only identified chlorine bleach and also misidentified that it was for sanitizing after a blood spill. So we have changed the language to chlorine bleach or other disinfectant for cleaning of blood and other bodily fluids. So it recognizes that bleach is not the only disinfectant that can be used, and then clarifies the purpose as disinfecting rather than sanitizing, and requires which requires a different dilution of bleach or a specific disinfectant. And then it also clarifies that it's not just for blood spills, but rather all bodily fluids. Any, and I think it was also brought up that bleach is not, there was something about bleach in cars as well, or when you're transporting, that we wanted to be able to provide flexible options that meet the same requirement. Okay. Any thoughts on this one? Barriers?
That'll help us because we have some schools that we absolutely are not supposed to use bleach at all at. They have their specific sanitizers. So we always have to have a very small bottle of bleach, and ready to be able to mix up to meet licensing requirements. But the school is not wanting us to use it. So this will help with that by far, to meet those requirements and to make our schools happy at the same time. So.
As well as vehicles. Thank you, Christy. There's a question in the chat. Was this already fixed in building space as well as vehicles? Yes, I believe we have, it's kind of open-ended as to, this matches are more our a definition also of disinfectant. So which can be bleach or something else that it's approved. I'd have to look up the exact language by either environmental health or so there are other options, yes, than just chlorine bleach, both in the facility and now in your first aid kit and vehicle as well. Okay, Marcus, you've raised your hand. Nope, nope. Okay. He's waving off. I see. Okay. Anything else on disinfectant? Okay. Next. Last one. So this rule was actually under the illness section, and it's one of the last rules in there, which was staff may also determine that a child who has been admitted into care should be separated from other children if the child is unable to participate comfortably in activities or needs care that is greater than the staff can provide without compromising the health and safety of other children. We are proposing to remove this rule completely. And the reasoning is that the rule set already reflects current OHA guidance on exclusion requirements related to health and illness, and that this rule is not needed at this time. Okay, just want to say it's helpful. Okay, my pets. Thanks, Marcus. So, and it was kind of, the intent of this rule wasn't exactly clear, and we just felt that it was being already met by the long list of exclusion and symptoms that are listed right above. Yep. Bethany, sorry, Bethany.
I'm just wondering if the not needed at this time will OHA guidance always be in effect? I mean, because I feel like there was this wave of like, hey, COVID exists, you all have to follow these rules. And people are like, why? What? Okay. So is that just because of like COVID protocols right now in place, or has it always been there and people may or may not have known? Will this always be in effect, or at some point in time will there be a shift of like whose authority you would be able to go to say yes, this child should not participate? If that makes sense.
I think so, and we might have to get back to you on that question. Miriam, who is kind of our I would say OHA liaison, is on vacation this week. In rule, it does say that you have to follow OHA's communicable disease and restrictable disease guidelines. So you have to, whatever OHA decides essentially is restrictable or communicable, you have to follow those exclusion guidelines for those particular illnesses, childhood illnesses. In terms of symptoms and removing a child or sending a child home from a program, those also came from OHA. So they align also with, I believe, what is what schools are also practicing. So we tried to align those so that if a child was in school, we'd have the same exclusion requirements as the school would. So I don't know if it could change. Like during the pandemic, of course, we relied heavily upon OHA in terms of exclusion and quarantine. But that was also done under like emergency rules. So which might be something very specific and different. I don't know if that answers your question.
I think so. And it's mostly like if the rules always say you have to follow OHA guidelines in this manner, and then sometimes OHA may shift depending if there's, monkeypox outbreak, then that would be on the program to also know that OHA is updating like the exclusion requirements. Is that true?
I would say yes. We have, though, anything that impacts childcare specifically, we would also just be sharing out to. I think that post, what we've learned, coming out of a pandemic is how much coordination and sharing of information really has to occur between agencies. So that unfortunately, for some, you're going to hear it multiple times, not only from OHA, but also the Office of Child Care. But yes, our rules do reference OHA's rules for for communicable and restrictable diseases. Okay, any other thoughts on, oh, Marcus raised hand?
Okay, it works. Last time it's freaking out. I would agree with everything that Bethany said. And I would say too, and this is like kind of beyond the rule set. But for like when this is being put out to people or like summarized, like it'd be very helpful within the document if you had links to those exclusions from OHA anytime it's referenced in the document, as far as like the school center or the center is concerned.
Mhm.
Just because it's really helpful for administrators and then for people that are carrying this out to reference that and to show guardians or parents like this is why that's happening. Because that's been like for us even currently, that's always been a thing of like, well, can you show me where it says that my kid can't be here or they're not able to participate because of whatever reason. So having that quickly accessible, whether within this rule set or like, again, like in summary or something like that would be very helpful for providers, I think.
Thanks, Marcus.
And sorry, I'm not more familiar with what it already says. I just do like the piece in here that it references, it's talking about unable to participate comfortably, but it notes in here without compromising health and safety of other children as well. So sometimes there's like, oh no, my kid's fine. They're coughing, but they're used to it. And it's like, well, it's not really just about your child. It's about also, as a provider and as the other children here. So as long as that language is also in there somewhere else, I think is a nice foundation for a program to be able to have, that it's not just about your child, but also those in the space, if that makes sense.
We'll have to double check that because I don't have the full rule set up. Yeah, that's the piece of, Marcus says that's the piece of the language that I also loathe to give up. Okay. Oh, more comments in the chat. Just it's very helpful to frame away a kiddo cannot stay in programming. And Christy says, good point. Okay. Anything else? We've Allison, I'm hoping, has of course documented your feedback, and we'll see if any or we'll double check to make sure that there's still language in the rule set that addresses what's been brought forward. Okay. All right. We have reached the end of the proposed changes. So just a little bit about next steps. We're going to review any feedback that you've given today. And then the updated rule set will be open for comment. And then I'll make sure to send out the link so that you can review it. And then the revisions will go to the Early Learning Council in late September for adoption. And again, that implementation is still planned for January of 2023. So, and then of course, we just wanted to thank you for participating today. I know it was a very short turnaround. And we just really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us today. I know you're all quite busy, still caring for children this summer, and then, as Christy mentioned, ramping up for fall. So it's quite a busy season. So cutting an hour out of your time to meet with us is very much appreciated. And yes, I did receive I have taken a new role. So Kelly Scales used to be in this role, and now I am in the role, and we modified the title slightly. So Child Care Initiatives Analyst. You have my email address. So if you have additional feedback, please send it that way. And again, I will be sending out the slides from this to all participants that are on the email list so that they will have an opportunity also to provide any feedback. So any additional questions today?
I do, but it's not related to the rules
Okay.
explicitly. It's like, you mentioned they'll be open for public comment. So I guess I was wondering about like the sharing out policy. Like, do you have a plan so that everyone outside of us and those people who actually read public comment documents will be like ramping up the preparation for January?
Do you mean like in general, just about the entire rule set, or just these specific changes?
The whole rule set. Like, will
okay.
anybody who this would qualify for know that there's a rule set coming for school age?
So yes, we have a internal and external communication plans. Every school age program and every recorded school age program received an email or a snail mail copy of a letter announcing the rule set with information on where they can find it, because we don't have printed rule books yet. So, and those are coming in the fall, just an FYI. But there will be additional information that will go out to programs. We're holding in like engagement sessions with school age programs that will have additional information on the rule set. They'll be like webinar style, and a lot of additional, just announcements and information will come out in the next, 4 months. We also sent out, there'll be information in renewal packets as well. So if your facility is renewing between, I believe, September 1st and January 1st, there'll be information in your renewal packet specifically addressing the change, because your application will still be good, but partially way through your licensing cycle, the rule set will change, right? That you will be held accountable to. So we just want to make sure that we are getting out as much information as we can in a variety of modalities, and then definitely leaves space and time for questions leading up to the January implementation.
So there will be school age programs who get relicensed in October, but then have to follow the new set in January?
Correct, but there's no additional application. There's no, nothing is really necessary or needed. You'll just be, under a different rule set. So when the licensing specialist comes out, if you renew in October and your monitoring visit happens, 6 months after that, roughly, the licensing specialist will use the new rule set to conduct the monitoring visit. But your renewal in October will be under the old rule set.
So I guess, so I'm just wondering, like, you'll still have to follow, like, toilets in the view kind of thing, and then you'll switch over when your licensing person comes. So, in January.
Yes, anything that is in center rule currently still applies to you until the end of December, and in January the new rule set applies.
Okay.
We tried our best to really align it with the school year, but it was not going to happen. There's just a lot of things that have to happen internally for us to be prepared for this as well. So.
Great. Thank you for the update.
Oh,
Sorry.
no, not a problem. Great questions. Okay. Oh, I stopped sharing my screen. Okay, great. All right. I am going to give you, time back in your day. I will send the slide deck out. And again, if you have any additional feedback or comments, please feel free to send them my way. We will be drafting proposed changes and again, posting them to, it'll go to the Secretary of State website for public comment. And I'll also, just so you know, those do get announced as well, typically through our childcare updates when there is things that are open for public comment. So if there's no additional feedback, I will end the recording. And again, thank you so much and reach out if you have any questions.